Welcome,
Hello there.
everybody. Welcome to the Bad Batch After Show. My name's John.
I'm Bryce.
And I'm Mike.
Today, we are doing the series finale of the Bad Batch, Season 3, Episode 15. This is it. This is the series finale. It was a 50-minute banger. It was great. I loved how long it was. It was a good episode. I was glad. I was really nervous. They're going to do like some 22-minute thing, and so we got a lot into this. What are your guys' initial reactions?
My initial reactions, like when this episode started, that music hit in just such a way, like the way it started, I was like, this is going to be nuts. And a lot of the episode was honestly leading into that music. It just didn't think anything good was going to come from it, like at all.
And you're so wrong.
No, hey, the one thing that the Kiners have done with this particular episode is just deliver top-notch Star Wars music.
I have to 100% agree. One of the first notes I made was, "Holy cow, this thing is hitting hard." It was louder than normal too, and it was really setting the tone. And they brought it.
Yeah, I agree. Because right off the bat, we had that finale opening, and had that dystopian, solemn music, and that tarnished metal faded logo with the ominous music really set up this finale. We could hear the drums like going into battle. It was very threatening, and then it opened up right away with the squadrons patrolling the Tantus Forest. So yeah, I knew the beginning was different, similar to how the music changed for that other episode too. That was in between, like the happy island where they were, and then the over cloudy island.
Oh yeah, it was 4 or 5 episodes ago. You showed us the differences. One was all sunny, and then it was all cloudy.
Yeah,
go back and watch that episode. But, yeah. So let's get into it.
All right. So I started a little bit about it opens up with the squadron still patrolling Tantus Forest, looking for Clone Force 99, and it pans down to our 3 heroes as Hunter. I think he had to. I think Wrecker must have dislocated his shoulder.
He did something
because Hunter pulled his arm down, and you hear a crack, and he's like, "Oh!" So he like put it back into place.
It was a little interesting, a little vague on it because you did look like you'd see almost a trope in movies where they just move their arm and they popped it back into socket. But then, almost immediately after that, he's not gonna make it. He's gonna need med packs. And for a dislocated shoulder, I was like, I missed something there. Yeah.
In addition to the dislocated shoulder, the shoulder was dislocated because he wrestled that creature, and the creature just threw him full body slam against the wall.
Oh, so good. I mean,
a dislocated shoulder that was one symptom of all the injuries.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a dislocated shoulder. And my brother was in the army, and he dislocated his shoulder too. And he does just move it, and it pops back in when it happens. Yes. It is that easy. Yeah. And it's that easy for it to pop out as well. Mm-hmm. But I think that was just one of the symptoms of his overall injuries.
Yeah.
I liked it. And then I thought right away, I did think it's not looking good for Wrecker. He's going to be the first one. I got that feeling because I went into this expecting there to be major carnage. I'm not going to lie.
We'll get to the part where I thought it was it for him. It's towards the end, but I'm like, this is it for him.
But right from the beginning, I wanted some deaths. I expected some deaths. I'm like, who's gonna make it? Who's not? I wanted to X out some characters. I'm like, Tech down. Who's next? I'm ready for it. So it goes down. And then Hunter reminds him that they're only 5 clicks away. Oh wait, and right before that, after Hunter pops his shoulder back in, Crosshair asks Wrecker if he still thought wrestling the creature was a good idea, and Wrecker says, "Yeah, I still think it was." And so he's all gung ho.
Yeah, because how do you say? He's like, at the time, yeah,
that's why he did it. So Hunter reminds him they're only 5 clicks away, which is close, and he asks if Wrecker can make it, and of course Wrecker can make it. Then we switch to inside of Tantus, and we have Hemlock and his commando security detail ordering a squad of troopers to guard the vault until the security lockdown has been lifted, because now they know that Clone Force is there.
Mhm.
Scorch approaches as the troopers leave and informs Dr. Hemlock that one of the insurgents, Rampart, has been captured, which we saw at the last episode.
Right.
Um, Hemlock goes to the prison cell to interrogate him, saying that his choice to align himself with the insurgent clones was not a good look. So it's not looking good for him. And then Rampart mocks him, saying that he's surprised how calm Hemlock is after his secure and secret facility has been compromised, that he can't even imagine how the Emperor would be pleased about that. So
That
I thought
scene
that was
was it was very interesting, very cool. I love seeing the dynamic, and I was glad Rampart wasn't like groveling. Oh, take me back! They made me do this and all that. I was kind of glad he's kind of like, you guys screwed me over. So I was kind of glad that.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't understand why Hemlock went in there. He almost went in there just to gloat. He didn't ask him any questions. What are the plans? How many are? He didn't ask him anything. He just went in there gloat, and then kind of went back and forth and left. It's like, well, that's just an interesting scene. I enjoyed it. I just didn't really understand the point of it, but I still enjoyed it a lot.
right. And then
Yeah.
after this, after Rampart has this gloating moment, he does. Hemlock says to him, "You know what? After all that time on Camino, and you didn't get to learn how clones think."
Mhm.
Hemlock he knew that Clone Force 99 would eventually come to try to rescue Omega. He just knew it because he knows them. He knows how they think, and that their failure is also inevitable, right? So he's so smug and so secure, so sure of himself. Um, Rampart still doesn't understand why they're going through all this trouble for just one young little clone, and he
Right.
fails to see how she could be so valuable. And then Dr. Hemlock states that she is so important to the Empire that that's what makes him indispensable. And as he departs, we see that Nala Se was right across the hallway, listening to everything.
Mhm.
So she knows everything that's been discussed.
Well, I thought that was kind of funny too because she didn't even say anything. Like she knew it was Rampart, but she didn't say anything. She just kind of peeked
No.
her head, like, "Oh, they got you too."
hmm Well, because she's just like listening and getting information. She's not going to show her cards.
Right.
Uh, and then we go inside the vault where the children are, and Omega's explaining her plan to the other kids that the squad she told them about is here on the planet, and if she can get them outside of the room and find them, they can all go home. Right. So she's planning this escape. She assures them that she's been trained for this and that she's going to get them all out. This initiates her plan to take over the droid, and Eva and Jax get into position distracting the droid, saying that, my toy doesn't work, can you fix it? And the droid's like, I don't, that's not my job. And meanwhile, Omega like pounces on him and starts to reprogram him.
Yeah, it's funny because this whole time she has that thing that she keeps up her sleeve, that like little pin, and that's what she used to jab it. And
Right.
obviously, it comes into play later on in this episode again.
It's like a scalpel or something because it's sharp. She can
Mhm.
fit it between to wedge the panels. Um, So then this initiates their plan. Sammy gives her a sign by tapping a chip, right? And while he's distracted by the two of them, Omega jumps on him, reprograms him, and then Dr. Scalder notices something's wrong, right? She looks down from the top level and she decides to go down into the vault to see what set things right. And now the droid is on their side, right? Because Omega's reprogrammed him. And Omega orders it to stand guard by the door as they orchestrate their escape.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes back outside to the Tantus forest, and Wrecker's hunched over and he's groaning. His shoulders are heaving. Clearly, they're in a lot of pain. And Crosshair says, "We need another med patch," but Hunter explains that they're out. No more med patches. But Wrecker still insists that he can make it. But this was still leading me to think, like, you know what? It's not looking good for Wrecker.
Right. Well, it's at this point too where um, they're talking about infiltrating, and Crosshair's like, I'm going to do this, and he sends or attempts to send Hunter and Wrecker to the comms array to signal Rex to come in. but they were like, no.
Actually, that's a bit later though.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
No, it's before the Zillow Beast.
right. But this because it's still you skipped all the part where the kids make their way to the Zillow Beast, and when Tech is asking Emery how the kids got in there. So because after this part where he says that should push forward, then we go back inside Tantus, and then Echo is with Emery in the lab, and he's telling her where do the other kids come from, and she tells him that the Empire hired the bounty hunters to retrieve them, and
So was Echo just not believing her? Was that what that was about?
I think there was definitely some trust issues there for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Because even though Omega had told him about Emery, he's still not 100% sure about her.
So he was like, I don't see anything about her in here, and so it's like, wonder if that's like he's like trying to cross-reference her statement saying she can help him or not. But it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, then she tells him about Project Necromancer, right? And he says he doesn't like the sound of that, and right, because it doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, the Omega and the kids are making their way to the Zillow Beast, and then Baron is getting really restless. But then Omega tells him, "Don't worry, because it's going to get a lot louder in just a little short minute." Because her plan is to release the Zillow and create some havoc. So she tells him to stay there.
God, by the
way. Yeah. She tells him to stay there. She sneaks in and starts to release the Zillow. And then Baron is crying. And then that actually serves as a pretty good distraction. Because then some of the clone troopers go over there. Some of the scientists start looking at what's going on, and they discover the kids in there. And by this point,
which is pretty hilarious. I mean, you're on guard you don't know everything in your building, and your duty is to watch the Zillow Beast, and you hear crying, and you open a panel in the wall, there's 4 kids. I'm like, what the? I thought it was really hilarious. Like, they didn't know there's kids there. All of a sudden, there's kids in the walls, like rats.
You know what? They didn't. They didn't know. You're right.
To me, I'd be like, what is going on here? So I got a kick out of that.
I just tells him, what is it? He's like, it's children, sir. What should we do with them? He's like, get him out of there.
Yeah.
So, but by this point, it's too late because Omega has managed to release the Zillow. The force field is gone. So he starts coming out of the water, and then he does his Godzilla scream, which I love it, right? It's very Godzilla.
Oh,
yeah. And quickly they get the laser, the dish to try to subdue it, but there's no way to keep it under control. So it destroys that weapon and starts raising havoc. Chomping on a trooper. He just ate the first one.
That specific way that it happened reminded me of Jurassic Park when the T-Rex when the guy was sitting on the toilet, he blew the thing away and he's just like sitting there and he just see ya.
Yes.
That's what that reminded me of.
It sure did. It was cool. And then once Emery and Echo enter the vault, Hemlock's already there, apprehending Scalder. Because remember, they had reprogrammed the droid, and the droid had tagged Scalder, and she passed out. So then Hemlock's pissed off because obviously it was Scalder's incompetence with the children that led up to their escape. So he says that she's going to pay for it. And then Scorch announces that the lights flicker, the room shakes, and then Scorch announces that the Zillow's loose in the containment center. Then Hemlock orders them to shut down the main reactor, which is a cool line because they've shut down the main reactor, right? Where have we heard that before?
Yeah. Why did they shut down the main reactor? Was that just to keep the facility less nuclear? Like I don't understand.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it.
It's going to start destroying things and it'll explode. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So he does blame this escape on Scalder, which is good.
100%.
But then he tells Dr. Kara that she must find Omega because their fates are now interconnected. They're tied together. So he's like, you better find Omega.
I like how he assigns a doctor to find her. It's not her job. She has no skill set. You have troopers for that, but that was interesting.
That's true. Yeah. But she's also the one that has the best connection with Omega.
Yeah, he doesn't.
The troopers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was just interesting comment. He's sounds like he's getting desperate at that point. The everything's happening at once. 99, Zillow Beast, and then she gets out. All three things are at once.
Yeah.
And then has he got the message from Tarkin yet or not yet?
Not yet, not yet.
Because then he's like, oh god,
Yeah.
the stuff's hit the fan.
Yeah, Tarkin wasn't until we find out that he's
A
got
lot
an
later.
elite set of operatives, not just the one.
Right.
They almost look Inquisitor-ish.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it was important because Echo did ask Emery why she wanted to help. I don't think we talked about that. He asked her why she wanted to help now, and she told him that at first she didn't know what was going on, which she didn't have full knowledge, to be fair, and that once she found out, she it's wrong, and she wants to do the right thing, and she thought that she couldn't, but now she can, so she wants to help, and so that's what I thought, that she was having that change of heart, which I could see the transition from the beginning with her interactions with Omega. So that was pretty cool. So then Echo tells Dr. Carr that Zillow release is exactly a diversion created by Omega. And she's like, well, how do you know that? He's like, because that's exactly what I would have done. Split them up and cause a distraction and a diversion.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, come on, let's go. And so he's like, he knows where to head now to find her. He's got an idea because Omega thinks like they do. They're all clones. And so that was pretty cool. Then we see the stormtroopers that enter the destroyed Zillow chamber, right? It's all like destroyed and on fire. And then we see two bodies fly in as sparks are going on around them. The Zillow beast attacks them as Baron sleeps calmly, because they're back in the hollow of the wall. And Jack is like, oh my gosh, now he's asleep with all of this? Which is true, because you run that vacuum cleaner, kids fall asleep, right? They love that noise. So it's pretty funny. And then the Zillow begins to climb the walls, and now it reminded me of King Kong, right? It's doing that King Kong up the Empire State Building, climbing up. So I like that a lot too. I love this big monster energy. And in the hangar, the stormtroopers take cover behind crates with their blasters at the ready, and the lights start flickering off and on, and they turn off completely and they start attacking. You see the blaster bolts. That was pretty cool. Then we go back to the forest where Crosshair's scanning ahead with the macro binoculars, right? And
you're right. Okay.
With the Lurkas, and the Lurka house sniffing the ground trying to catch their scent. And Crosshair's like, oh, it's not looking good for us, guys.
Did you catch Crosshair's shaky hand when he's trying to? Yeah. So that was new. Usually it's always when he aims. So this is kind of new. So he's really freaking out about Tantus. It's really getting to him.
Yeah, and you know what? That shaky hand thing. Do you notice that also Dr. Hemlock's hand, the gloved one, is shaking too? Did you notice that?
Yeah. It could have something to do with, because if you remember, I think it was season 2. Hemlock was like almost immune to some of those poisons, and I would not be surprised if he trained his operatives to be immune too.
Sure.
So I mean, he used it again later on. Let me hit mute.
But I noticed that too, because it's not just Crosshair, but it's also Hemlock's hand, and his hand is gloved. I never noticed
Hemlock's. I noticed he had the glove, and I know that I never noticed that it was shake, but
I saw it shake in this episode, and then he holds it so that nobody would see it shaking, and I thought it was pretty cool. I'm like, wait a minute, he's probably like experimented on himself because he's like that crazy doctor, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, he said he did. Yeah, he's like, I become immune to this. I think that's kind of part, some kind of nerve damage. It's triggered just by thinking of it.
and I think it's because all the anxiety. Well, for Crosshair's hand trembling, I think it's the anxiety because he knows, damn it, I'm gonna have to go in there, and I know what's waiting for me in there, right? All the torture chambers, all the it's gonna be bad.
Well, and probably that elite squad that he unwillingly probably helped create.
Yeah, he knows about that. Yeah, he definitely knows about them. So then he tells him to head back to contact Rex. That's when he tells him to go back to the command center, to the comm center, and that he's gonna go in by himself because he knows where to go. Crosshair angrily tells him that Clone Force 99 died with Tech, right? And that they're not that squad anymore. You know, that he's been inside and he knows what they're up against. And if they all go in, they won't all make it out, which is exactly what we've been thinking all along, that somebody's going to die, right? We've been
Mm-hmm.
anticipating this. Whether or not it happens, we've been anticipating it. And he said it out loud. So the elephant's out of the room. So he'll go in alone because he feels that that's what he deserves, because he feels a lot of guilt and remorse for his bad actions.
It got real at that point, kind of a little grim. Like, oh yeah, this might someone might actually die when he says stuff like that. Clone Force 99 is gone, and I'm like, well, I always thought that he would be the one that maybe try and sacrifice himself, and he's trying to. He's trying to be the one that did it. Thank
Yeah,
God.
he's setting himself exactly for that.
Yeah.
That's right. He
But
wants to
then,
sacrifice himself to help rescue Omega and the rest of the remaining Clone Force 99.
but they forgot about the youngest member,
And then
Omega.
Hunter tells him, "Hey," he's like, "Don't even think of Plan 99." So when he
Mm-hmm.
said that, I thought, you know what? Plan 99 is probably some type of a sacrificial last resort plan that they all know about in Clone Force 99. That, if push comes to shove, it's the last straw, our last hurrah. Then we just sacrifice ourselves for the good of the team. And so, but Hunter's not having it. And then Record confirms that they've all known the risks, that they've always known the risks, including
Right.
Tech. And that part when he mentioned that even Tech knew the risks, that got me a little emotional because I mean he really did die.
Yeah.
Tech is dead. And so that was like, oh, they said, you know what? He did it, and he was doing it for the cause of the squad. And so they all know that that's why they're doing it. And then at that, the Lurka hounds whimper and escape from their handlers, right? I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And the Lurka's running deep into the forest, and it's because the Zillo beast is emerging, and Clone Force 99 asks if that's Echo's handiwork or Omega's, and then they all unanimously say it's Omega, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what she would do. So that was pretty cool. I like that.
Them and Echo, they all knew it was Omega. So that was a fun moment, like Omega.
Oh yeah.
All three of them, all three, yeah,
I got.
unanimously.
Oh no, Crosshair goes. Oh, is that Omega?
Or Echo.
Or is that Tech? Or is that Omega? And that's when Hunter and Wrecker went.
Echo or Omega. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Meanwhile, Omega's leading the children to an enormous ladder, right? For their escape. They're like, well, the Zillo Beast went that way we can too. And then Jax explains, you know what? I don't do so good with heights. And that he'd make a terrible soldier. But then it's a really nice touch there because Omega tells him, you know what? I have a brother who hates heights, and it's Wrecker. And yet he's the strongest soldier that I know.
Right.
And she advises him, just stay focused on what's ahead and not on what's below. Giving him words of comfort. And it's true because Wrecker has always said that he hates heights. And it's funny because he's big, strong, burly guy, and he's like, "Oh, I hate heights." He's so funny, but he's still a great soldier. So that doesn't mean that you're going to be a good soldier or not. It doesn't impede you from reaching your goals. And then as they do that, they start climbing the ladder. Right, it's a long ladder, so it's going to take them a while. And of course, no guardrails, right? Because this is Star Wars.
Yeah, there are no guardrails.
Guardrails.
Just one guardrail. That's all I want. Just one
There are,
guardrail.
by the way, there are guardrails.
A couple here and there, but none on this ladder.
No.
So then Scorch enters the communications center, explaining that the Zillo has breached the bay doors and escaped into the jungle after wiping out 2 full divisions of troopers, right? So this Zillo beast he's a handful.
Well, I think that's really important because you see later on that they're really thin, and you see his security detail later is only down to 1 trooper. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that the Zillo Beast has really thinned out all the soldiers.
I think he said two full divisions, not squadrons, 2 full divisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
But then he sends a bunch of ships after it as well.
Yeah. He's almost abandoning the facility. So I don't know if we're there yet, but that makes you think of something else is happening.
Yeah, so Hemlock does order him to deploy shuttles after the Zillow, and then Scorch warns him that without further reinforcements, the rogue clones could exploit their weakened defenses. And then Hemlock assures him that they will. So I think Hemlock is counting on them
Mm-hmm.
to get into the facility because he has some other plan brewing, which we find out later. So he tells him just to do it, all Emperor style, do it. And then he enters a central hub with a turbo lift to a round chamber with several pods, right, all around him. And then he starts awakening them, and we see this red steam come out, and then all of a sudden they emerge in black armor, like dark
Mm-hmm.
troopers, right? It was very much like the dark troopers in the Mandalorian. Yeah, remember, was that where they had the dark troopers?
No, yeah, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah,
season 2.
yeah. They just like get animated. Um, and then it switches over to Emery and Echo, who have arrived at the Zillow chamber, and then the door won't open because it's all like damaged. And it reveals the burning chamber. And then Echo confirms that Omega was definitely responsible for this because that looks like her handiwork. He asks Emery where the shaft leads, and she tells her that it goes up to one of the transport hangars. So then he tells her, "Hey, you know any shortcut?" And then they just head
Mm-hmm.
out. I'm assuming that she knows her way around the facility. They're going to try to take a shortcut to meet the kids up there. And then it swipes to outside the facility. So I really like that this episode was fast paced and ongoing and jumping from like scene to scene because there's so many things going on simultaneously, but it was really seamless how you kept jumping from one to another and you weren't confused. It just all made sense because it wasn't a linear story. It was multiple stories happening at once. It was really well done. Outside the facility, Crosshair leads Hunter and Wrecker onto the burning rampart below the hole in the outer wall where the Zillow Beast escaped. And with their weapons out, they slip between the wreckage, scanning for enemies. But then, hidden in the shadows, one of the operatives takes aim at him with a sniper rifle. Right. So one of the newly awakened operatives is a sniper, and they all have like
Well,
different
it
specialties.
was the one that we've seen before.
CX2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the sniper. Um, and then Hunter dodges last second, right? And then a squad of stormtroopers emerge with the operatives, and one of them has a long spear.
Remind me of the Magna Guards
Right, it did. That's what I thought it was too, like the Magna Guard
or
spears.
Purge Trooper, that kind of thing.
Hmm. The other one had two yellow electro swords, which is pretty awesome. Um, Crosser explains that they need to fall back because he knows who these guys are.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, these are bad guys. They're not just regular troopers. So he tells them fall back, and then he fires a sticky bomb to the top as the others retreat. CX2 watches them as the other operatives fan out, and then Crosshair begins picking off the advancing troopers because he's still a sniper too. And it looks like he's doing a pretty good job. He's hitting his targets. Mm-hmm. So one of the operatives picks up a shield and advances towards them. Meanwhile, the sticky bomb goes off, and a huge sheet of torn metal wall begins to topple. And then, as they're making their retreat, Hunter and Wrecker, their position gets strafed by this gunship strafes their position and sends them sprawling. And a piece of metal falls and pins Hunter underneath, and then Crosshairs, he shoots the gunship pilot. I mean, just like nails him.
Mm-hmm.
So that gunship starts falling down. And Wrecker's attempting to free Hunter when an operative wraps Hunter's legs with an electric vibola. And it just gets wrapped around his legs, and he falls. So Crosshair shoots a sticky bomb onto that operative who has a shield now, and he manages to escape as it goes off. He tosses it and it throws him. And then Crosshair's trying to cut the bola with his knife to release Wrecker, but an operative with a spear, like you were saying, Bryce, it's like the Magna Guard spears,
Mm-hmm.
kicks him away, and then he steps on Wrecker's chest and he jabs that vibroblade like right into his neck. And that's another time I thought,
neck? I thought it was up. I thought it was a little bit more up.
But it was like in between his armor and his helmet, right in there. And so I thought he's gonna die now, because I'm just expecting Wrecker to die all along.
At this point, at that point when everything happened, because obviously Crosshair gets thrown across and goes to pick up a gun, and then someone steps on his hand, and coincidentally,
That's
it's
X2.
Yep, and that's a right hand that goes
And then
bye-bye again.
because the other one tosses him like a blade,
Mhm.
and he tells him, "You should be more careful with your shooting hand." Schwup.
Right, we don't
And
see it, but we know what happened.
yeah, and it's confirmed later too when they show him with the nub.
Yeah, because they're still mending him. Like, instead of letting him bleed out or whatever, like this, the medical droid was actually fixing him
He capped it. Yeah,
because Hemlock at that point she doesn't want to kill the clones. That's the thing.
he wants to experiment on them.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So then it goes when he's about to chop the head off that we don't see. It swipes over to Omega and the kids reaching the top of the ladder, right? And the fighting has stopped, so there's no more noise, right? No more gunfire. And so the kids are like, "Hey, I heard shooting," and Omega's like, "Yeah, but it's over now, so I think it must be safe." Um, then Echo and Emery arrive, and they see the fallen members of the Bad Batch on the skiffs, right, as they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And Echo's like, "Oh, those are my brothers," and he confirms that they are Clone Force 99, but they've got to find the children first because very focused on the mission, right? The mission is let's get those kids, get Omega. That's the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And as Omega leads the kids through the smoke and fire, they're discovered by some troopers, which is like, man, can it get any worse? But Echo stuns them, and the kids are like, "Whoa, that trooper!" And he takes off his helmet, and Omega's like, "Oh, it's Echo, right?" And then he and Dr. Carr lead them away to the shuttle, and even the kids are like, "Dr. Carr, you're helping us," and they're very surprised, and she explains that she's going to help them. Echo gives Emery command of the shuttle because Omega says, "Where are the others? Where are my brothers?" They're not there. And Echo knows, of course, because they were taking them inside. So he gives Dr. Carr the data pad, and Omega asks Dr. Carr to please look after the children. He gives her the position for, which I'm assuming is that island planet where they've been hiding, right?
Yeah.
What is it?
Abu. Abu.
Pabu?
Pabu.
Pabu, yeah. So she's going to take the kids there because that's where they've taken the other children too. So it's like a safe haven. And then Omega says, "Please take care of them," and Dr. Carr gives her word that she will. And then together, Omega and Echo go back into the facility to complete their mission now, which is to release all of the clones. Right? They went to save all their brothers, and then we see the shuttle as it escapes. So Emery's out, the kids are free, they're safe. So that was a good.
The only thing, I guess maybe it's just because of the confusion, the only thing that I didn't, the escape was almost like too easy. Kind of almost like how the Millennium Falcon left the Death Star in episode 4.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And then Leia's like, "Of course it was too easy. They're tracking us." She was
Right.
like, "We got this information." So Leia knew because Leia's smart. So, and so then from this point, Clone Force 99 at this point are now inside those pods and they're being tortured, right? And Hemlock reminds Hunter that the last time they crossed paths, they lost a member of the squad, which was Tech, and that it looks like they might lose more even now. Which I'm like,
and it panned over to Wrecker.
Yes,
Wrecker first, and then it, obviously.
Right. And then that's when they show Crosshair's hand being mended, his little nub, his right hand. He explains how Crosshair had resisted the conditioning. These are the conditioning chambers, but that he's made revisions. And it looked a lot like when they were torturing. Remember when they, what was that series that we saw? It's not The Mandalorian, it's the other one, where with Dr. Pershing.
That was then. Was that? Yeah, it was Book of Boba Fett.
Was it when? But when they were reconditioning them, and then the guy with the glasses, and then they're going to do the.
Yeah, no, it's Dr. Pershing. I'm trying to think. Was that Book of Boba Fett, or was that early on Mando season 3?
It was one of those, but remember when they put him in that thing, and they're like electric.
And then she's eating the cookies and cranks the thing and just fries his brain.
It reminded me of that.
That was Boba Fett season 3, I think. All those weird episodes that were all over the place. Yeah. I think it was, yeah.
But it reminded me of that because those electrodes, the electricity was going to his temples, right? So interesting. So then he tells me, "You know what? I made some revisions, and if you survive, you're going to make excellent operatives." So he's going to convert them into operatives. But if not, he's like, "There's plenty of clones that I can experiment on." right? So he's going to go through all of them till he gets it right. But then Hunter tells him, "Oh, we will survive, but you won't." So he's determined. I like that a lot. And this is when the officer walks in and says that there's an incoming transmission from Governor Tarkin.
You have a phone call, sir.
Yeah, you've got a FaceTime coming in.
Yep. Oh.
And then it swaps over to Echo and Omega sneaking into the prison. And with the data pad, she starts unlocking all the cell doors, right? Everyone's free, including
Rampart
and Nala Se. Nala Se comes out and she sees Omega and she kneels down and says, "Why did you return to this place?" And Omega tells her that she had to, but not to worry because they're all getting out, right? Because Omega, she went back on a mission to rescue everyone. But Omega's concerned because she can't find her brothers. They're not in any of the cells. So then one of the clones tells them that they might be in the conditioning chambers. Rampart tells them that they need to escape. They can't go anywhere else. It's crazy. Let's just get out. But Echo tells them that clones don't leave their brothers, right? And at that point, he tells the remaining clones there, you've all earned your freedom, but if anyone wants to stand with us, who volunteers? And then, of course, I'm assuming all the clones volunteered.
Yeah, it's that usual. I'm going to do it, and then once somebody actually steps up, then it's I'll do it.
So that was really nice because they're all committed. They're thankful. And then Nala tells her that her science, the Kaminoan science, cannot stay with the Empire, and neither can all those records. And as long as Dr. Hemlock is alive, Omega will never be free because he's obsessed with capturing her. So then Omega's like, "Oh, I'll go do this," and Nala Se's like, "No, I'll take care of it." So Nala Se gives her the data pad, and then she slips away. But then we see Rampart was like watching, conniving, and he starts following Nala Se.
He's always been in it for himself.
Yep, always. Then we see the phone call or the transmission, and Tarkin is explaining his discontent with the facility, and he announces that they're going to be there shortly to see for themselves because Rampart's like, "No, everything's under control."
Well, that tells me that he's got spies almost in Tantus. Why is that information getting all the way to Tarkin across the galaxy already? Hey, stuff's hit the fan, so you know. So Tarkin's got loyal soldiers there.
I don't think he's Grand Moff Tarkin. Is he?
He's just governor. He's just a governor.
It's Governor Tarkin. But remember, they knew before Clone Force 99 infiltrated that they were on their way. Because they're the ones that told Tantus first that they were on their way. So
Governor Tarkin, but that's not what he knew though. He said the Zillo Beast got out. He didn't say 99's attack, so he knew the Zillo Beast got out. So somebody's like relaying information to him when really they shouldn't be. They should be keeping it in house. But so he's got loyalists. I don't want to call them spies because they still all work for the Empire, but people who kind of report to him that are
I'm sure
placed there. So that was really interesting.
I'm sure there's Imperial officers that are there that are that's their only job is to report on things.
Probably Thrawn, young Thrawn, trying to move up. He told Tarkin, so Tarkin promoted him to admiral after this.
That's not Thrawn style.
I'd say Thrawn would have been an admiral. Thrawn would have been an admiral at this point.
Think so?
I don't know about being a grand admiral.
But he wasn't. But he wasn't.
Yeah. He moved up very fast within the ranks.
He did because he was that powerful.
Yeah.
That skilled. Yeah.
Yeah, he had tactful mind, but yet, he also had the same vicious streak.
Right. So then after this call, Omega heads back into the walls to find her brothers, right? Because she's like, I'm going to do some recon because she's tiny. And he gives her a little communicator.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes in and then she... and Nala Se grabs a proton bomb, right?
Thermal detonator.
A thermal detonator. And from a fallen stormtrooper, and then Rampart follows her into the lab. Right? He wants
Why
to
do
know about.
stormtroopers have thermal detonators on them? That is not something I give my security guards on my location. You have a grenade. I thought that was interesting,
But
but yeah.
remember, the Zillo Beast had just been escaped, and I think they were preparing for the worst.
Oh, they went to the armory or something. That makes sense because I was like, "What? I've never seen stormtroopers with thermal detonators."
I don't think they just carry them around all the time.
Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't. If you, it wasn't. It was one of the commandos. So
Oh,
because
was?
it had the backpack, yeah, because it had
Oh,
the
it was a
backpack.
commando.
I thought it was a regular stormtrooper.
That makes more sense. But Rampart follows her because he wants to know more about Project Necromancer, right? He's intrigued. Like, what's going on here? Why is she so important to the Empire? Because, of course, he's a weasel. He wants to find out anything that can advance him.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair being guarded in the training room by one of the Clone X troopers. But as soon as Echo appears, the other Clone X troopers show up, and Omega's caught by one of them. And then Hemlock says clone loyalty is the weakness. And he gasses the remaining prisoners while Omega watches.
Yeah.
Like, releases the gas.
Now here's where I thought Tech was done. So at one point he pulls
Echo.
like a vibro
Echo.
or Echo. Sorry, yeah, I thought Echo was done because he had like a blade sticking in his back, and I'm like,
Right.
what's going on here?
I mean, those operatives were pretty good. I mean, they're kind of handy.
Yeah,
The
they're
Bad
good.
Batch.
Oh, they had
their lunch,
different
yeah,
qualities and stuff, almost like the Bad Batch, but like
Mhm.
very enhanced.
But for evil.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Inquisitors, kind of like
Yeah.
that's what they kind of reminded me of.
But a non-force type of Inquisitors.
Right.
Like for regular people.
That's why I wonder if this was like an early version of like the Purge Troopers.
Maybe.
Because
maybe.
the Purge Troopers were different. Obviously, they had the black armor. They usually
Right.
were a little bit better marksmen. They carried staffs.
They were more elite, yes.
So I mean, we saw one in the Kenobi series. You see them; they're one of the tougher enemies in the Jedi games, Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor. The Purge Troopers were
weren't they also in Rogue One?
No, those were Death Troopers.
Oh, Death Troopers. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Death Troopers are related to this too. Because Death Troopers were more elite as well.
Yeah, we see him with Moff Gideon, obviously.
Yeah. So meanwhile, Nala stays into the lab and she's trying to like purge all the information to get rid of all her science tech from the data banks. And then he's right behind her, aiming a gun at her head, and he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna get this. Let me find out what this Project Necromancer is." And he doesn't realize that she has that thermal detonator.
And she already
clicked it. And she clicked it, and she's holding it, right? And then he's like, "Oh, very interesting." He finds out what he wants. He thinks he's got it all. So then he shoots her dead. And then when Nala-Se falls, he releases the detonator. He sees it, but it's too late. Kaboom.
No, he got exactly what he needed to get. And the way that Nala-Se death happened, I think, makes complete sense of like her like basically being the last Kaminoan. So cloning at this point is, impossible. And I know we talked about that like a couple shows ago, that we were wondering what was going to happen with her, and I thought that the way that portion played out was good.
Was Rampart the one that ordered the bombardment on Kamino?
Yes.
So I think they even did that on purpose. The way she died, she even said something like, "They'll never have Kamino technology." I remember she added the word Kamino in it. So it's kind of a little poetic, saying, "This is our last. You took us out. Now the last of us is going to take you out."
Yeah, this belongs to Kamino, and this will never belong to you.
Right.
That's when he says something about, I don't know exactly what he said, but then that's when he shot her.
And so then at this point, the lab is destroyed, and then we swap over to Hemlock, where he's telling Omega that they failed, right? But they didn't, because Wrecker wakes up and he destroys the control panel in the training room, causing it to power down. And then Hemlock grabs Omega like the like the coward that he is, and he starts running, right? But plus he needs
Well,
Omega.
he puts the handcuffs on her and
Right.
program, and he's got this little wrist thing with the programmer, which was weird because like, what the heck was he programming? But
It was really. Did he slap one on one of the troopers or something? Or
I thought at first that's what it was, but he was slapping on his own hand
It was on
and then
himself
her.
and Omega.
Yeah, but I Jonathan, I thought
I
that
thought
for
they were
sure
binders.
too. For a
I thought they
second,
were
I thought it
binders.
was. They are.
No,
They
we
were
saw the
binders.
binders part, but then he put like this, almost like an NFL quarterback playbook kind of sleeve on him. I thought he put it on the trooper first. I'm like, did he put one on the trooper to kind of tell him what to do, control him?
Maybe.
But you said he put it on himself, so it kind of looked like the trooper the way it was cut. But they never told us what it was or anything, which is a little interesting.
No, they didn't.
They saw these white dots, kind of like almost like the Predators.
We did grab Omega and run, so he has her, and they're attached. But then Wrecker and Echo take on the Clone X troopers, while Hunter and Crosshair go after Omega. And outside, Hunter and Crosshair confront Hemlock, right, as he's trying to make his escape.
Well, they shoot on the ship. That's what that thing was in his hand, was the controls to that.
Oh, that was
pulling the ship, probably.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a slave command, yeah.
Just as it was coming around to land, that's when I would assume Crosshair shot the engine.
Right, because then the ship just falls. We saw that.
Yeah, and then Scorch turns around and just gets laid to waste. And that was probably my only bummer, as I was hoping that there would be a chance that he'd be one of the clones that says, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore, and then flip the script. But
I was hoping all clones would finally wise up, but they don't, and it's kind of like they die fighting to oppress their own kind, which is really interesting. So,
the commandos were completely different. They were programmed different. Look at Gregor.
But were the commandos clones?
Yeah, Gregor. Yeah, Gregor was one.
Gregor was a commando that was supposedly dead, and we actually see. I think he was on Tantus, or he was on a different base trying to escape. Sorry, it wasn't Tantus, but a different facility that he was running through the woods, and that's one of the Bad Batch episodes where they infiltrate a facility, with Gregor's help. But Gregor was a Republic commando.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But later on down the road in Rebels, like, he was just his mentality was completely different than Wolf and Rex.
Right. So then, and I think Omega gave them a sign, right? Like a secret signal, because she's attached to him, but then she like taps her shoulder, and Hunter sees it.
It was like a gesture. It didn't focus on it, which is interesting. It's kind of, you see her kind of like that or something.
Yeah, and then but that's when Hunter tells Crosshair, you know what? She knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
make the shot. Make the shot. And then Crosshair's like, I can't trust myself, because if I'm slight deviations, then I might get her. And he's like, you know what? Omega trusts you. Just do it. And then Omega makes her move, and sure enough, Crosshair makes the shot.
Binders go
off, and then
Hemlock goes bye-bye.
He goes bye-bye over the edge. Yep. And then they all leave on a shuttle, right?
Yeah, and that's where I was like, man, like, it wasn't really that it was anticlimactic, but it was like, I think we all were thinking someone's not going to make it.
I know.
Kind of thing. And there were so many
different... all made it.
Yeah, there was so many different things along the way that was like, man, I thought Wrecker was done. When the thing fell on Hunter, I thought maybe Hunter was done. There was a part where I thought Crosshair was done. I thought Echo was done.
Right. So I have a kind of a theory on this. I think they might have had an alternate ending. Maybe had a couple different maybe they never filmed it or digitalized it, whatever.
It's possible.
But I feel like there's probably an alternate ending, and they said that might have been too dark, and let's go with the lighter ending, because it was very like bam, bam, we're good, and they take off. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of.
I think sometimes that's like a writing trick. I'm not a writer,
Yeah.
but where you have like, hey, this is where we're starting, but this is where we're gonna finish.
Yeah.
And then the journey along the way sometimes will like change that
Mhm.
ending. So it's very possible they had a different ending in mind, but as the story was being fleshed out, I was like, well, we can't do that. We need to.
You know what I think too? I think that when they started with Tech's death, I think they didn't realize how much the backlash was going to be from Tech's death, because I think it was a lot of people like very unhappy with Tech dying.
It was big. I mean,
Yeah,
it was a
it
big time
was
thing.
major. So I think they thought, you know what, that wasn't really good for the whole series to kill them off. We'll just let them die off screen from old age or whatever, but not killing them off in an episode. It was just too much because that was hard when Tech died. That was a tough episode.
Well, this was a tough episode, even though the ending was
Yes, but not ultimately tough because then they didn't die. So you got that little bit like, oh, okay.
right. But I mean, it was still a tough episode as far as like just getting through it. Right. Like, yeah,
Yeah, in the moment, yes.
the light at the end of the tunnel was there, and it's beautiful and all that, and it just the end leaves so many now possibilities of where they could go.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Almost. So then they all leave on the shuttle, and then the Empire arrives on Tantus, right? And here we have Governor Tarkin, and he's looking around like, what the heck's going on here? It's like nothing under control.
And this was another thing that, like, I thought was going to happen. And it was just like my anticipation of watching that scene is that they were going to find the operatives and find out what exactly they were. I thought we were going to see an operative unmasked, and we never did. And the one back of the head.
Well, one helmet did come off real quick, but it was kind of like on the side. You could tell. It was
no, you're right. It's the one with the blades, but he was a regular looking clone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we never got to see the sniper guy with his helmet off. We did get to see the Magna Guard guy his helmet on, and then kind of like do a Darth Vader, like attachment
when it lit up
thing. But you could tell he was a normal clone too. So there wasn't really anything. So it kind of, as far as the theory goes with the other operatives, they were just regular clones. But probably maybe CX2 might have still been a crosshair clone.
They were unique body shape. I mean, there were some really slender guys. There's one guy that was built like a Wrecker. There's a
Wrecker, yeah.
It was the Magna Guard guy, wasn't it? The bigger guy.
And you know what? And there was one of them that jumped out that had like a female body shape. Did you see that one too?
No, I just saw the really slender one, and then I remember the really large one.
When they showed like the view from above looking down, there was one that popped out at the top part over here, like jumped out, and I'm like, is that a female operative? And it looked like one of the Inquisitors. The female Inquisitor had that same shape with the head thing too.
Go back and watch. But it was so it sounded like, well, I always thought he was taking clones that were in the military and that were already qualified, and then like changing their mentality, wiping their memory. But then some of these guys weren't normal. Should have been a 99. You can tell because they were obviously, I don't say genetically altered, but different. They were different body types. So I thought that was really interesting. Like there are other Clone Force 99. Mm-hmm. Or they should be other,
or were they Clone Force 66? You know what I mean? Like there definitely could have been. 99 is just the one that we came to know as the Bad Batch, but I my guess would be is that if they did it with them, they could have done it with other groups.
But remember, they took the name 99 from the first defective clone, which was 99, the old one, right? It was all like hobbled over.
He reminded me of the if you've seen the movie 300, there was that one Spartan like the shield. That's what he reminded me of. But he wanted to fight, but no, you're not going to fight.
But I think that term was because there were other defective clones, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes the defects might be positive defects, sometimes negative defects. Right. And in his case, it was a negative defect. But in terms of our Bad Batch, they were all positive defects or enhancements. So then Tarkin's like, you know what? This is a hot mess. I'm going to shift all the funding from Tantus over to Project Stardust.
Yep.
Which is hilarious too, because he doesn't say it like that. He he tells everyone around him, who's just a bunch of stormtroopers, shut this down, and shift all funding over to Stardust. And the stormtroopers are like, "What the heck you want me to do?"
Yeah, well, they don't know. Whatever you want. As long as it didn't say Jets.
He was talking.
I get why they did it so we know, but I was just like, "Who's he telling?" I'm like, "There's no like accountant there."
Bluetooth. He went like this, like on Star Trek.
Yeah.
Transfer it to Project Stardust.
It's so interesting though how quickly they just abandon everything here. It's like no follow up, no like find out what happened, interrogate the people here. Because I mean, oh god, what's that doctor's name? That's the female doctor, Zora. No, the female doctor,
Scalder, Dr.
Scalder. Interrogate her, finding out what happened, because nothing, no follow up. She knows the kids are there. She knows they're special, but it's just like shut it down. Nothing. We're not. It's just like wow, they just did not care.
He just wants the funding.
Did anybody else like find the whole Scolder thing kind of funny that she's Dr. Scolder and like combine
Mulder and Scully?
The X-Files.
It's Scalder.
So that was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But he just shut it down. It's so interesting.
This one facility is shut down, but remember how they showed the second one on the other mountain behind? That was perfectly fine. Nothing happened there. So we still have
multiple facilities on that
There
planet?
are at least two, remember? I mentioned on the last show that did you guys notice there were 2 Mount Tantus now? And I never noticed that before. And so this first one is destroyed where they had the Zillow Beast, but the one behind, and they showed it again in this episode, the one behind. So there are two.
I think they had to scrub everything on that planet though, because it's been compromised.
No. I think that facility is scrubbed. Funding's
but listen.
Because in the EU, Thrawn uses, he goes back to
that the planet is compromised. People got away. They know the location. They have to scrub the planet. Yes, that's exactly.
Right, we'll see.
That's exactly.
Ron
I mean, I see both points, but
and obviously they were still making clones because we have Grogu, who's a strand cast, and we have Dr. Pershing, who has the Kaminoan emblem on his shoulder, and that's way after this. So obviously there is still
Grogu's way before this.
Yeah, but still, the Pershing is not. Pershing is after, and Pershing knows how to work with clones, and so obviously they must still.
They can put a facility on any of the million planets in the galaxy. It doesn't have to be Tantus.
And any of those million
Tantus is compromised. Not as a compromise. There's a Godzilla monster running around that they can't stop. Why
would they have the technology? It's still on that other facility as well.
Move it. They have so much. They own the galaxy.
But that other mountain.
You know where they put it? I know where they put it. They put it on Project Stardust, the Death Star. That's where all the stuff they need.
That blew up too. No.
Did it? Well,
guys, everything centers around Tatooine and Star Wars.
It's in Jabba's palace. That's where it is. But that other one, I bet you the information's backed up there. They have backup files over there.
What information?
The cloning information.
No, all that stuff is gone, or else Nala Say's sacrifice meant nothing.
Yeah,
all of it's gone.
I agree.
All that's
1,000% agree with John. You can't.
Yeah. But it's not all gone because they're still cloning.
They're terrible at it, though.
Right, but that's the point. I don't think it's the fact that they're not still attempting to clone. It's just they're not going to be at the level that the Kaminoans were.
Right.
I think that's
all right. We'll see. But
Mike, I get to see you Saturday. We're gonna have this out. We're gonna have this out Saturday.
Oh, I got something for you for Saturday. But let me tell you, Thrawn goes back to Tantus, and he clones himself at the Tantus facility. And this is one, but they were showing two.
Now I can.
Ron?
Huh?
Ron?
Yes. In the EU, he does.
Talking about the right hand of Thrawn, those two books, whatever they're called.
Yes.
Yeah,
The duology.
The two-part.
I really doubt they're gonna make that part of the story.
Well, you don't know. They can pick and choose what they want.
I know. I had a talk with Bob and Kathleen, and they said, "No
we have
worries."
the possibility
Bob
that it could be.
we had tea, and they invited me to Club 33.
We're not finished yet. So then after this, we find that everyone made it safely to Pabu, and then Echo tells Emery that she's going to Pantora to help the clones get settled. Right?
Well, then she decided to tag along.
Right. And, that's the home world of Senator Chuchi. Right?
So awesome. I just
Uh,
love Tucci.
Chuchi.
Choo-choo.
Senator Chuchi. It's like Chi-Chi, but with a chew.
No, it sounds like Stanley Tucci.
It does. And she's going to go with them to help the clone cause. Hunter tells Omega that he and Rex are working on finding the children's families, right? And as for them, the rest of the clones, they finally get to choose where they want to be. So that's good.
And we kind of see like a family moment where, they can breathe.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what about it, but Hunter's face looked completely different at the end of this episode than it did at the beginning of the episode.
Because he's continued the advanced aging.
But you know what I mean? Like it seemed a little bit skinnier, a little more frail.
Are you talking about the future, or are you talking about when they're sitting in front of the tree?
And the
Or sitting
epilogue?
in front of the tree.
Oh.
In front of the tree.
Okay.
He, you could just see that there was some fatigue. You could see it on Wrecker.
Well, they did get that electrocuted thing going when they were trapped, so maybe that really zapped some of their.
And it might have, yeah.
It was like a torture. It was like torture.
Did even Crosshair to a point looked a little different? You could tell like half their
something was missing with Crosshair. Just something was missing. Could not put my finger on it. Something was.
I can't quite figure out what was.
It's tip of my fingers. What is it?
I gotta find out.
It's within my grasp.
So then after this, we have the epilogue, right? So the story flashes forward.
First of all, that moment was really nice.
Yes,
it was a nice pan out. Just everyone's sitting there. They get to breathe. First time they all just sat and just breathe.
And they get to all be together, right?
Yeah, just like
mostly together.
Oh yeah. Well, Tech's dead.
Yeah, we've established that in season 2, actually.
Yeah. So then it flashes forward about a decade, right? About 10 years after, which puts them into the same time frame, like about where our original trilogy would be, or Rogue One, around that era. And Omega meets with Hunter and Gonki at the ship. Gonki's on the ship. And Badger's older too, but still around. And then she tells Hunter that the rebellion needs pilots, right? So she's all grown up. She looks really good. She's like a grown-up Omega.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you think she would be? How old does she think?
In her 20s, early 20s.
Yeah, she looked good. So it caught me off guard. I was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, it's Omega." Yeah, she looked cute. I just gotta say.
Well, for almost like a quick second, I thought it was maybe Asajj maybe coming back for.
I didn't know what it was
for a second, but then the ponytail gave it away. I was like, "Oh,
right,
there it is."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so then she tells him that the rebellion needs pilots, and he doesn't want her to go, right? Because he's like a dad. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is that after Crosshair blasts the binders and Omega runs to them, right? Did you see how
she goes to Crosshair first?
She goes to Crosshair. I was like,
it just breaks Hunter's heart, mother.
I know. Breaks Hunter's heart. That's what I felt like.
Those videos of this kid run past the one grandparent to the other grandparent.
I don't think it broke his heart. I think there was things had come full circle from the end of season 1 where she didn't want to leave him, but he also wasn't going to leave either.
Right.
So to me, I thought it was a way of things coming full circle. He knew that she wasn't ever going to leave him again, and he was there at the end
for her. He didn't abandon her either. Right. That's true. But still, because Hunter was always the dad, and then you know, I just felt like, I felt bad for Hunter.
And he kind of confirmed that at the end that he said that you're always going to be our kid.
Yes,
so he's still
own.
Yeah.
So he tells her he doesn't want her to go, but that this is her fight. She has to make her decisions, and he does tell her that if she ever needs them, they will be there on Pabu. And then Omega.
Well, I don't know about Pabu. He just says we'll be there if you need us. So it almost leaves that door open for a reunion at some point or somewhere that maybe not be on Pabu.
That's true, but I think they are on Pabu.
Yeah, they're in the underground secret tunnel that everyone knows about.
Because the one that everyone knows about, right.
The one where Asajj was, the CX2 was.
Yeah, everyone knows it.
Not really a secret cave.
So then Omega flies off with Gonki and Tech's glasses on the console, which was nice, and that was the end of the episode. So now, final thoughts, guys.
All right, no, I have a few points I want to make out. Hear me out. This is my turn.
What do you mean your turn? You haven't stopped talking.
I have a few small points, and then I want to get to my big overall thing. A few small points I would have liked when the Zillo Beast got out, and first Echo saw it, and then the guy saw it, like Omega. I would have liked them to say, "Oh, that's what do they call their jobs or codes? That's a mission. That's mission 54 or something." I thought that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah,
because she's so in tune with them and knows everything. I thought that would have been cool.
All the plans. Yeah.
Plans. That's called. Oh, that's Plan 54 or something like that.
Right.
We still have no real clear reason why the Empire is so interested in the Zillo Beast. What it's doing. It's kind of experimenting, but we never really. It's still not. I thought we'd get that solved when we saw it, but I guess not. Especially when we saw it.
I was okay with it. Peacing out.
I'm okay with not knowing. I just thought we would. I'm like, okay, well, I just thought we would. Especially when we saw it in season 2. I was like, oh, we're finally going to solve this mystery.
I think that with the reactor thing is what was like the reason why they were shocking it and agitating it was to provide like an energy source. It's probably what was also helping power that building, much like how the Kyber crystals power the Death Stars.
Yeah, I just let us know. I mean, it's not like it ruins it for me at all. I'm fine with it and all that. I just thought we would know more information. So it's still just like an occasional monster that gets out. I'm like, okay, I still don't know whether it's doing more damage to their own cells having it. So really, just let it be. When Hemlock got to the conditioning area and he opens the red tubes, I thought the whole time these tubes had something to do with Project Necromancer. And apparently had nothing to do with Necromancer at all. Because every time we see that red glow of the tubes, they're talking about Necromancer or something like that. Or they just talked about it, or they talk about Necromancer right after you see the red tubes. Always really similar or adjacent to the conversation. So it had nothing to do with Necromancer. Unless Necromancer is... No, it's got to be, it has to do with Palpatine. I thought maybe Necromancer was bringing back the old clone troopers, but no, it has to be Palpatine. Yeah.
There were different layers to the vault, and so we don't know if the portion where we see Palpatine and Hemlock go it ever showed up again in the rest of the season.
Because doesn't the Emperor Palpatine come and look at the red things? So I don't think he would care about. Okay, you're training troopers. Who cares about this? I need you to focus.
I don't think that's where they were at. I don't think that's where they were at. I think they were in a completely different area of the vault that we never see again.
Oh,
Remember, because there are different layers to that vault. That's why when he goes in there, that turbo lift goes different ways, right? Like his turbo lift went up, the vault is actually.
I think if they're going to misdirect us like that, they should at least eventually let us know the truth. Because I don't know, I thought that was a little. Yeah,
so
Emperor is not going to.
Can do now.
Emperor's not going to give two turds about him working on clones to make them better soldiers. He wants. He has all the funding to make him live forever. So I thought that was a little weird. Yeah. I mean, he says it several times that I'm so important because of this. And then he's kind of, oh man, the dog just let one go. Sorry.
What other little point? What other little point, Jonathan? What other?
I think you said it earlier. No real follow up from the Empire on. Hello. Hi. What happened afterwards? I mean, literally, they can go back to Pabu and be fine. I thought they would never go back to Pabu to be like compromised, but like he shuts that down, and like everyone out now, who cares? And so, if there's a clone of Palpatine in some tube on another level, it's still floating there, just like hello. they didn't salvage anything; they just left. So Thrawn could go back to an abandoned facility. But it's going to be abandoned. It will be abandoned. It's not operational.
But it won't be destroyed.
I don't know. I don't
know what shuttered means. He said shutter it.
Yeah, shutter.
That mean just board it up?
Yeah. Basically, yeah. He's just
it all over
down,
campus.
take everything take anything and everything that's
of value.
Right? And then then just kind of
And then so
we see it. We see those shutdown facilities before. We see it in Resistance. We've seen it in other various properties.
Yeah,
like Rebels.
Then my last 2 points. One, we had every one of us thought when the title was "The Cavalry's Arrived," something to do with Rex on clones, and it never showed up. That was a little bit of a payoff, and he even referred to it and teased us in the beginning.
Like,
call him. Oh, we're gonna get ready. Here we go. He never shows up.
Well, and even Hunter says his name at the end too. So, I wonder if that's foreshadowing, maybe for some other, maybe animated. Maybe we get Tales of the Clones. We did say something about that. Maybe Tales of the Clones. Maybe.
Yeah. I want more than just Tales.
That gap of Rex to Rebels.
Yeah, and not even Wolf or nothing. Like I thought, us being teased with Wolf 4 episodes ago, we might see him again. Nothing else. That was just a little like, okay.
We've seen Cad Bane. We've seen Fennec. We've seen Rex.
Yeah, but they're not part of the clone army, and this should be all about the clone army. So they were cameos. He's actually invested. So I thought that was a little interesting. And then my final point. It felt, like I said earlier, I think it was a bit of a rewrite, or they had alternate ending stories. It felt a little bit of a softball ending. How can we make this good, but without leaving, like I said, too much of a footprint, not upset too many people, nothing too big, but still at the same time have a cohesive ending. I still enjoyed it, and I was satisfied. Good ending, but definitely softball and minimized a little bit. So I was like, it was just enough to me to be okay. Any less would have been like, who's that? Me? Any less would have been a little rough.
Yeah.
So my nerves are going off now.
So I think I agree that it was a softball ending, and I think for it being a kids show, I think it was fine. I do like how they wrapped everything up.
Was this really a kids show though?
Yes.
I mean, it was pretty dark. There were some pretty dark
Kids
episodes.
like dark things. Kids like dark things, but it wasn't like they didn't show anything like extremely bad.
No,
they didn't show the hand being chopped off.
The music added a lot of intensity this season that wasn't there the previous 2 seasons.
The music,
and I was all for it, but there were times like Sophia was like, something bad's gonna happen, and I don't really want to watch it.
Well, I think maybe a little bit older kids, like preteens, like pre-adolescents. That's what I mean by kids show.
Yeah, the little kids are watching that other terrible show.
Oh, I love that show. He's gonna
Young
get
Jedi
you.
Adventures.
Check this out. Pew. Is this cool? Like it. Pew.
But the lightsaber noises have changed over the years.
Nubs is gonna get you.
Nubs
is gonna get you.
I just got Sophia the nubs on the speeder bike.
Did you get Sophia this?
Sophia has almost everything Young Jedi Adventures.
Don't forget, this Saturday,
Free Comic Day.
How'd you already get it if it's Saturday?
It's available this Saturday. This one too. We have 2 Star Wars issues.
How'd you get them already?
Apparently Mike went down there and sweet talked somebody.
I need to go ahead of time because every time I go, he's like, "We're already out."
I know. So. Well, they hold them for me. They put them in my pull box.
Yeah, my comic books place does that too.
Mine puts all the variants for me and everything, but for some reason, Comic Book Day they we forgot, and they're all out. I was like, and then they give me the Star Trek one because that's all that's left.
Did you call to remind them though? Did you call to remind them that you really want those?
No, I need to.
I call them, and I keep telling them every week. Remember, for Comic Book Day, I want these 2 Star Wars issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I thought it was a soft ending. It was nice. Overall, I liked it. So it's more plus than minus. But I wanted somebody to die. So a couple of those things.
That's gonna be Mike's quote. I'm gonna put that on a picture of it. I wanted someone to die.
I wanted, because you know what? It gives it more gravitas.
Mike.
The good guys.
You know what kind of
people died, but not the good guys.
The operatives died.
No, it was a little rough. Is all those clones that came to help? Most of them died. That was a little harsh because I'm like, most of them died.
It was, yeah, it was. Yeah. But there was also like they were there for a reason. I hate to say it that way, but you know, when all these clothes come out and they had just different, different hair, hairstyles and stuff, and you kind of had to know that they knew what they were getting into too. Like Echo said, some of us might not make it, and they still did exactly what they were trained to do.
Yeah,
I think
that was their whole purpose. That was their whole purpose, and they did have that existential. After the war ended, they're like, "Why do we exist?"
Yeah,
our whole purpose was to fight in war, and that was gone. So yeah. But overall I liked it. I really liked the epilogue. I thought it leaves it open for us seeing Omega
in live action.
And I think so. She could very well come out in live action or even future animations. If there's any new Rebels animations or that's over, but something like that, I think it'll come out.
Yeah, Rebels definitely had an end.
Yeah, I would love
we could see Omega in Andor. We could see Omega in any of the new shows coming up, maybe even the new movie.
I would love an animated show that paralleled the original trilogy, and we get to see stuff like what is Ahsoka doing, what is Rex doing, seeing how they're fighting for the. She said the rebellion. She didn't say resistance, so this is definitely that great.
Shadows of the Empire. Dash Rendar, come on, that would be great.
Yeah, give me something that's parallels with that, and I would love to see these other characters. One of the big gripes with Ahsoka is we should been the last 20, 30 years. Like,
I know.
So it'd be cool to see her fighting the good fight. You just don't see her on camera. Cal Kestis, give us all. And so I would really enjoy. I mean, you put Cal Kestis in an animated show with like Omega or something. I think that everyone would watch that.
I have a feeling Cal. I think I have a feeling after a while that Cal shows up in live action because Cameron Monaghan obviously is Cal, right? It's the same thing as like it's kind of the same thing with Katie Sackhoff being Bo-Katan, right? I mean, made the transition from doing the character, but only he's doing a lot of motion cap. He is Cal,
right? Well, she was doing just voiceovers, and now she was,
and then she went into the live action. I feel like Cal Kestis can be that
make the transition.
Too.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure. I agree, and I want to see. I love Monaghan. He's great. So final points, Bryce.
I loved it. I just think that the ending. I think we, Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair are at peace. They're living the best life that they can. They were falling in love with Pabu during season 2.
Mm-hmm.
They were being cared for and things like they love that place. So the fact that they get to retire there, for lack of a better term, like it was a fitting ending. Omega going off and joining the Resistance. I really didn't see
The rebellion.
or the Rebellion. I didn't see. To be honest, I didn't really see that coming, but I was like really happy to see that she's not okay being at Pabu. It gave me Luke Skywalker vibes, right?
And she's
like,
definitely more skilled than Luke, because she's had a lot of training.
right, but Luke was a very good pilot in his own right on Tatooine,
But not the same like her training, right?
her training
definitely a lot more
was different. But he was wanting to go fight, for the rebellion. He was wanting to be a pilot. Like, all of his friends had left. Like, Dak.
Mm-hmm.
Dak had already left,
Biggs.
and
Well, it makes perfect sense though when you think about it. Like they get away and they have their happy ending, but the universe, the galaxy doesn't have their happy ending yet.
Right.
So and Omega cares about everyone. So
Right.
you know that she's not going to be okay with this. So it's just if it ended when the tree scene happened, like what would be the future of Omega? It would be, to me, join the rebellion. So really, I'm glad they did that, so we got to see that, so we don't have to just kind of imagine it. So if it does happen later on, some kind of a content, we know how it happened. We don't have to kind of piece that together. We have to retroactively tell something.
Right.
So I'm glad they just added it in there, so they never have to go back to Omega again if they don't want to the Bad Batch again, or they have that window to do it. I think it fits her character perfectly, and I think it fits the guy's character perfectly. Like, we'll take care of you, but we're just going to sit and it's not really our fight. We're fine here. So I think they're obviously they're aging, falling apart, and they have a dog to keep track, an elderly dog at this point to keep track.
Yeah, I guess I was a little. I love the whole season. Like I said, it was a lot. It was by far more intense than season 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
I love the ending with Omega, because now it's like, okay, we want more. I don't think there's going to be anybody that's like, okay, that I'm good. I don't need to know Omega's story. Now people are going to start going, what's next for her? She's not there with them anymore. It's like she's joining the rebellion. So what stories can we do? Is it written? Is it a comic? Is it book? Is it a show? Is it animation? Is it I'm gonna pop up in a movie? Like, so I think it was a good way to end it.
Yeah, there's different things, right?
I was bummed we didn't get to see Crosshair and Wrecker at the end, especially Wrecker. For me, maybe that was my only bummer, is like we didn't see Hunter, actually go back and say she's gone.
Oh yes, to the rest of the.
That's about the only drawback for me, is not seeing that. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, and I think that because of the attachment that Omega had with Crosshair, I'm surprised that there was no last final scene with Crosshair.
Well, she was trying to sneak away. Let's be honest, right? Like, she turned something on, and then she's like, and Hunter's sitting. And when Hunter was sitting there, like all my senses haven't gone away yet. The way he was looking, I was like, is he blind?
I thought the same thing. It's just like,
and maybe he
there.
is. Yeah, maybe he is blind, but everything else is still around him. Maybe that's why he has Badger. Notice Badger also has a collar around him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he has to use Badger at some points to get around like this. So there was like, okay, like
the not saying goodbye to the crow to me was because it's not. If she would have said like goodbye, had like emotional ending and like hugged him and said bye and all that,
a final.
It would have been a final. Last time we ever saw the guys.
Yeah.
So this kind of leaves it up in case he even said, if you need us, ask for help. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had something, if whatever content she's in, because I think they're going to do something. They have to. I don't think they
kind of have to now. I think you kind of the way it ended, you kind of have to.
I mean, this is a really good opportunity then to get a lot of people more into comics. Because usually you don't take a character that's in television solely and then place them in comics. Like this is, you got to follow them. You have to follow them. Be a good opportunity to get people into comics, especially some younger readers.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
So,
it'll be kind of
we'll
interesting
see.
to see how they do that. I mean, look, I mean, look at Doctor Aphra, right? Like, is this strictly a comic character and 000 and BT1? That would be cool to see that show up in a story.
Well, that's also already there's already the audio drama of Dr. Aphra.
Right. There's the audio
It's
drama,
different from
which is
comics.
basically a rehash of the first series of the comic.
Right, but it's a different medium, so it's not just the comic.
True. True. But I mean, you're right. But I mean, to see like a different iteration of Dr. Aphra, whether it's an animated show or somehow shows up in live action.
To me, it makes them more real for some reason. If they're only in animation or only in comic, and once they can cross that, it really like solidifies them. Like I cannot wait till we get Onaka in live action because that's really going to solidify his character. So I think they do that. Some of these other characters
We have them in live action at Galaxy's Edge on Smuggler's Run.
He does have a point.
That is an android because if you watch for more than 5 minutes, he
on
does
the
that.
screen. On the screen when he's talking to you about
that is a AI version of it. That is not.
That is an actor. That's Hondo Onaka.
It would be cool to see him show up in something.
We need him to show up. He's a great character.
Like I still wish we could get a Solo 2. I think there's just still so much that you could do there.
We need
Hondo. Well, this is we were just talking about Shadows of the Empire or whatever. He can be in that. I mean, there's so many great characters that go along the original trilogy that started off like prequel area and then go off in later. And I want to find out what happens to them. Let's give me these characters. I think it'd be a hit, even if it was just animation. I think it'd be a hit.
So, well, thanks for joining us.
All right, hold on. What do you guys think of this episode? And then what do you guys think about the whole series as a whole?
I love both. I really love this season, and I really love the episode. Like I said, my only knock is not seeing Crosshair or Wrecker at the end. But to your point, had they said good, but I think it would have been cool to see Hunter go up to them and say, she's leaving. But maybe that puts a final stamp on that too. Like what you were saying, like if she said goodbye, that's a final.
I think if he would have went to just them and said I don't think that'd been a final stamp. I don't know. That might have been a missed opportunity. It'd be kind of cool to see them old too. But maybe Crosshair doesn't look too good.
Well, my guess is
he would have had a robotic hand though.
I think Crosshair probably looks best out of the three. I actually think at this point Wrecker's probably very hard to move around. Yeah,
to wreck.
He's very.
Maybe that's what. Maybe that's or maybe they were both in really bad shape, and that's why they didn't show him at the end because they didn't want people to see maybe that image of them. I don't.
You know what? It makes sense because think of this: those two characters, Wrecker is the most physical, so his physicality would have taken out a lot of them.
Football players, football players, by the end of their career,
right. And Crosshair was tortured a lot for a long time, so that also would have had a tremendous impact on him, which is different from Hunter. He didn't have those two experiences to that degree.
Yeah. So Mike, what do you think about the episode and the whole? Oh, Bryce, you said you like the whole series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this episode. My only gripe is that I wanted clones to die. Some of the Bad Batch. So I'm
going to rate it. I like holocrons because
I like the tech side, and I thought that brought more gravitas to it. And I didn't want anyone to die, but I did because then I would have thought, it's more real. But since nobody died, it plays more like a fantasy. Like, I think this whole series was just Omega's in a coma and she's just dreaming all these things with her happy ending. It's Wizard of Oz.
and all those random clones just die.
No, I don't
Who
know.
cares about those? Those don't matter. They don't even have names. You don't
All
even know
these
who
clones
they are.
died for you, and still not enough dead clones for Mike. You're worse than
Bad,
Rampart.
bad
You're
guys
worse than
survive.
Rampart.
Bad guys. I was actually more sad for Rampart because he died. I
I
liked
wasn't.
Rampart.
Look, I was like his character more and more. Even the start of this
I was,
episode, though, he kind of was kind of talking trash to
Who's that thermal
Hemlock.
detonator? Wait.
When he,
yeah,
when he didn't like cower to Hemlock and like try and beg for his
I
job,
liked him a lot.
I like that a lot. He kind of stood up
I
to him,
liked
like,
him a
"Oh,
lot.
Well,
you
yeah,
should
it's
be
fine.
worried."
But then Hemlock's like, like pretty much said, he wasn't going to leave the place either. Like Hemlock
Right.
kind of walked out like,
But Rampart was
Huh.
giving me Han Solo vibes, you know? That
I liked
swagger,
him, yeah.
I liked him a lot.
he's pompous.
So's Han. So's Han.
Glad I go, yeah, but in a different way, man. It's a completely different way of,
Yeah.
being.
So my
So
review of
I like the series overall, and I like this episode too, but more clones should have died. More Clone Force
apparently.
99 should have died.
the episode to me was good. Is I enjoyed it. Like there's a few things I kind of missed. Like I said, no Rex I thought was odd, but other than that, I still really liked it. Satisfied enough for series finale. I liked the whole series as a too. I was a little iffy. It sounded like sidekick characters when they announced it. But I'm glad it turned out really well, and I enjoyed it. And we got to see a lot of tangents, which is cool. So I really enjoyed the whole series. My one thing I do have to say is I was right and Mike was wrong about Omega having force powers. That was one that went on forever. Mike
No,
yes, she does not have force powers.
It is not confirmed.
Oh my god!
Everyone has midichlorians. Look at Sabine.
Not clones.
Everyone has
Not
clones.
clones.
All living things have.
All clones don't have souls.
They're living.
Yeah.
They are living things. If
Yeah.
they're also in rocks and plants and eggshells, they're in clones.
That they said they have no M count. You can't clone M count. So I was right. Mike was wrong again. Please comment if you agree with me on this one because it's been whenever Mike goes against me, he loses. But
Wow.
Wow.
There we go.
I have one more gripe too. One more gripe about the whole series. One more gripe about the series. Okay, I love Asajj, and I like that they brought her in, but really was kind of pointless.
Well, that's what I said, and then you kind of defended it a little bit, like 2 episodes ago. I feel like it was kind of pointless, and you said it helped Omega. What did you say? Maybe Omega figure out that she find herself or something. You defended it a little bit, but I'm glad you came aboard. It was pointless. So I was right again. It was the gotcha. I think for the cameo, the trailer. We dropped in this trailer to really make it. But
I think there's more to come. I think with her return, I think there might be, maybe that's what the spinoff is that Omega and Asajj, maybe at that point, she starts training her as a gray Jedi or something.
Maybe.
Wouldn't it be an awesome RPG video game if it was played alongside the original trilogy, and you get all these characters like Asajj and Cal and Honda and Omega, and you can build this team and just play throughout the galaxy like Knights of the Old Republic. That would be a great game.
That would be fun.
You have all these great characters that we kind of. Where are they in the original trilogy? Let's just do something with them.
Bring Shadows of the Empire in.
Let's make that video game have all these characters in
it. Maybe that's what George is doing. Maybe when George is coming back and George that's the show he's going to do, right there.
So
Dash Rendar, and we're going to get the.
Now that we're rambling, I think it's time to wrap up our show. Thanks for joining us. Be sure that you're following us on YouTube at Virtual Cantina Network, on Instagram at virtual.cantina network, on X, formerly Twitter, at Cantina Virtual, on Threads at virtual.cantina network, on Hive at Virtual Cantina, and on TikTok at Virtual Cantina. And be sure to like the VCN Star Wars Celebration Japan 2025 page on Facebook. That's the mothership. And shout out to our sister sites,
Star Wars
Star
Book
Wars
Nerds, Star Wars Comic Book Club.
over here, and Star Wars Comic Book Club over there.
And this is not the end of the the Jedi Archives after shows. We will do more after shows. We're going to do a couple episodes for the Tales of
The Empire.
Those will be that kind of special episodes. And then we'll be back to our normal for the Acolyte. I think it's TBD when the time and all that is, but we will do those. So this is not the end of our banter, our lovely chemistry and banter. We'll have more.
Me being right and Jonathan being wrong.
Excited to get into some some tail end of the High Republic and actually see this Project Luminous actually come to a screen of any size is awesome. So I'm looking forward to that series a lot.
Yes. Please like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. We love to hear from you. We love to have conversation with you, and really appreciate it. It helps us a lot.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
And also with you, Jonathan.